Okay, so hi guys. This is our week 7 and we'll be talking about functions. Okay, so now the question is, what are functions? You see, functions are used to hold a block of code that will be called in the int main. You see, and the reason why this happens, it makes your code readable and to be able to or easily maintain. You see, so what you see over here, you can see that all our code has been written in the int main. By using the function, we can put our codes in the function, call them in the int main, and then execute them. Now, remember one thing. Functions outside the int main only hold your codes. They don't do anything until they are called in the int main. So now we know that the int main is where the real execution starts. So instead of messing around with your int main with plenty codes, you can divide your codes and put them inside the function and then execute them in the int main. So over here, what you have to do is let's take off all these codes here. So now you can see our int main is free. So now let's create a function that will hold our code for us. So now before you create a function, ask yourself, what is the return type of my function? Will my function be returning any data type? Will it be returning something? If no, so right now the code will be writing here will not take in anything and return anything. So right here we use our void. So the void actually means it will not return anything. So void, and then we'll input our variable name. Let's call it void loops. Since what we are going to do there is loops, and then it comes with its parameter. What will your function take, and what will it bring? Since our function will not be taking anything, we will avoid the parameter, and this is the block of code. You see. Now let me show you what if your function returns something. Okay, let's say you want to do a grade conversion. So you want to convert grades. For grades, you know that the user will input grades, which is character, or let's say strings like A plus, B minus, and then the A plus and the B minus will be converted into a data type. So over here, whatever they will be converted, since A is what? Since A is let's say I'm just trying to teach you about the 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 functions that will actually return a certain data types. So let's say if the user since A is 4.0, meaning it will be returning a float data type. So over here we use the float and then we put our variable name. Let's say get grade point, and then inside our parameter, our function here will be taking grades and then it will convert them into float, a float data type. So over here we'll put our strings here, and then we'll put our string here, and then we'll call it like grade. The variable name is grade, and then this will be 8 block of code. So over here we can do our grade conversion. For instance, we can use the if else statement and say if let's say grade is equal to A, return 4.0. So what is happening here is our function here will take the grades and then it will return it it will return a float data point. You know, for instance, if I input, the reason I'm using the string is that A plus is not a character, it's a string. So actually it is taking strings. So what is happening here is my now my function will take in grades and then it will return their data type. That's why we are using the float. And then inside the parameters, it will return, instead of returning the A itself, it will return a different value. You see. But over here, what we are going to do here will not return any data type. So we'll be using void loops. And then over here, let's paste our code inside. Now you can see that our code is outside the int main. You can see what we did there earlier over there. They are all in the int main. So now when I run my code, you can see that my code has run successfully. I did not do anything. It did not execute anything. The reason is that every code outside the int main does not actually function until it is called inside the int main. And over here, you can see that our loop is holding uh, our function is holding our entire code. So over here, to be able to execute this function, we have to call them inside the int main. So to call the function, you only come inside the int main, and then you create the function here, and then you terminate it. Now this is my function. Now I've called my function. So over here, I'm telling my int main that please execute whatever is inside this function for me. You see, this is my function name, which is the loops. This is my function name. So if I want to execute whatever that's inside this function, I have to call it inside the int main. You see. So now if I run my code, you can see that now my code has run. It is asking me to enter a password. So if I enter 2025, you see it said welcome. You see. So now what you have to know is functions are used to hold codes which are executed in the int main. So I hope everything is clear. Okay. So thank you for your time. See you another day. Bye.